Another year wrapped up. We love to see it. We never have to think about 2023 ever again. But I suppose it wouldn't hurt to think about it just one more time. So, what has KickThePj been consuming this year? Well, to no one's surprise, I've been watching a lot of films and TV, and I've been playing a heckin' ton of games. So here is a big old list of movies, TV shows, and video games that I would recommend from 2023. Of course, 2023 gave us Barbie and Oppenheimer, two films that really have no reason to be talked about at the same time other than they came out on the same day. That's right, Barbenheimer. It came, it saw, it conquered. I really enjoyed the vibrant set design and the cool costumes, and Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling in particular really nailed their roles as Barbie and Ken. It's rare, but it really was one of those films that just lived up to the hype.
Sublime! I don't know, I have to think about that.
Then Oppenheimer was Christopher Nolan's big beast of a movie. It was very cinematic, filled with incredible performances, Cillian Murphy once again delivering the goods. But I'm gonna be honest, I did fall asleep during the third act. I truly appreciate that it will no doubt go down as a cinematic masterpiece, but it's not really a film that I feel compelled to watch again anytime soon. I think it's just the subject matter doesn't interest me as much.
Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds.
You know what I watched after Barbie and Oppenheimer that blew me away even more? Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. I don't understand why more people weren't talking about this film. I worry that because it was quite a big year for good films that it got a little bit slept on, but I will tell you this now, it actually might have been my favorite film of the year. The animation, gorgeous and original. The performances, incredibly charming. The story, a classic coming-of-age tale told from the perspective of pizza-loving turtles. What's not to like? No, really, what's not to like? I don't think there was a single thing about this film that I didn't like.
I like your vibe.
I like your vibe.
I like your vibe.
I like your vibe.
Speaking of beautifully animated films, Across the Spider-Verse was the highly anticipated sequel to Into the Spider-Verse. And once again, attention to detail was lovingly woven into every single goddamn frame of this film. My main complaint is that sometimes it was a little bit too much. It's very difficult to top a basically already perfect film. So did Across the Spider-Verse top Into the Spider-Verse? For me, I don't think so. I really loved it, but I didn't realize it was going to be a two-parter, so the ending gave me a bit of whiplash. Also, needed more of my boy Peter Porker.
I just washed my hands. That's why they're wet. No other reason.
Beau is Afraid. PJ is afraid to talk about this on the internet. Beau is Afraid is about Joaquin Phoenix playing this incredibly delusional and paranoid man just trying to live his goddamn life. This was such a divisive film. Before I went and saw it, all I heard was that people were very angry at it. People were losing their minds in the cinema. They were getting up, walking out, screaming, "This is the worst goddamn film I've seen in my entire life." So naturally, my curiosity was on fire. So I watched the film. It was 3 hours of utter madness, and I kinda liked it. It's unlike any film I've ever seen before, so if something's gonna take a big, bold risk, do it. Like Beau is Afraid. You might alienate almost everyone, but some people might actually kinda like it. Look, Ari Aster did Hereditary and Midsommar. I think he's earned the right to make this 3-hour oddball of a movie.
No good.
The Boy and the Heron is the latest Studio Ghibli film from the man himself, Hayao Miyazaki. The dude came out of retirement to make this film, so you know it's gotta be good. It's had quite a strangely limited release, but Sophie and we did manage to see a screening of it, and I absolutely adored it. It felt a bit like Spirited Away mixed with The Wind Rises. Like there's a grounded story about grieving and loss, offset by the wacky, fantastical character designs and world building that we've come to love from Studio Ghibli. Robert Pattinson might have been the standout performance for me. I didn't realize he was the voice of the heron at first, and it just blew me away. What a delightfully fun and weird role for Rob Patts to sink himself into. I'm a big Robert Pattinson enjoyer, so this film was...
So is that the truth or a lie?
A lie.
Truth.
Dungeons and Dragons. I cannot believe that I slept on Dungeons and Dragons. I missed its initial theatrical release, so one cozy evening we had a movie night, we put on Dungeons and Dragons, and I just thought it was brilliant. I loved it so much. It really managed to capture the chaotic fun of a companion-based movie that I feel other films like Guardians of the Galaxy have kind of stopped doing as well. Also, I am an avid D&D enjoyer, and so I was really glad to see how much they got right with this film. It's one of those films where you can tell the writers really know the source material well, and I really appreciate that.
Braid.
to me was our spooky Halloween watch this year. And let me tell you, I was satisfyingly spooked and I was very impressed. It's a modern horror film that doesn't need to really rely on cheap scares, and in fact, sometimes the scariest things are the things you don't see. It did really well at building the tension, watching these characters communing with spirits on the other side, and then the horrifying after effects that it then had on them. And the ending genuinely gave me goosebumps too. As I slowly figured out what was going on in my head, I got chills, man. Would happily never shake hands with a cursed wooden hand. Thank you very much.
Dude, this shit never gets old.
I only just saw Saltburn, so it's still fresh in my head. I went into this film completely blind. I knew nothing about it, which is generally how I like to watch film. I constantly found myself in awe of the look of the film. The overall filmmaking was just brilliant. It was shot really nicely. I was trying to guess all the way through where exactly it was going. At one point, I blurt out, "They're vampires! The rich family of vampires!" And then Barry Keoghan's character says he's a vampire, and I'm like, what the hell is going on, man? It turned out nobody was a vampire. Similar to Beau is Afraid, it did some things that I've never seen in a film before, which is great. Kind of gave me vibes of Call Me By Your Name, but a little darker. You know, instead of Timothée Chalamet spending the summer in Italy with this guy he loves dearly, you've got Barry Keoghan spending his summer in a British countryside estate with a guy he dearly loves. And instead of a peach, it's a grave this time.
Sit down and eat the bloody pie. Just eat it. Eat it. Eat the bloody pie.
The Super Mario Bros. Movie. I was so hyped for this film that I made not one, but 2 videos about it. Some time has passed now and I've seen it a couple more times. Do I still love it? Genuinely? Yeah. And so rather than just telling you what I liked and didn't like about it, because I've already kind of covered that in a video before, I just want to gush for a second about how exciting it is that this film even exists. Growing up loving Nintendo, there was not really much crossover into TV and film. And when there was, it was kinda...
Well, excuse me, princess.
Yeah. So it's kind of a miracle that something this good finally exists. And so I hope the reception to this gave Nintendo the confidence and the trust in other people to turn their creations into things like movies and TV shows.
Wow, you were great.
Oh, also, I completely forgot to mention Puss in Boots. This film was so unexpectedly amazing. The animation, the voice acting, Il Lupo, the whole thing, so good. TV? What TV shows did I sink my teeth into this year? Here's a few. Beef was one of those shows where there's this tiny little catalyst and it just... the story explodes from there, and it's so much fun to watch it unfold. Ali Wong and Stephen Young are the 2 main characters of Beef. I also really loved Young Mazino, who played Paul too. The thing I love most about Beef is it was just really easy to watch. You know when you enjoy a show so much, it doesn't feel like work to watch the next episode? Yeah, that's Beef.
Paul can't play right now.
What the fuck is your problem?
Yo, you making that money off crypto?
The same, unfortunately, cannot be said for the next show, but I feel compelled to mention it. Manifest. A good chunk of my year was spent trudging through Manifest. It wasn't necessarily a terrible show. It was. It felt a lot like shows from 2005. Your Lost, your Heroes, your Prison Breaks, where you've got these huge epic stories and these big cliffhangers at the end of an episode. However, unlike the other shows that I mentioned, Manifest was just a little wet. I don't know how else to describe it. It was wet. It really felt like a chore to get through at times, but we kept going because it was kind of funny when it was bad. It was one of those things where it was kind of bad, but you can't look away. At least I thought the final episode was pretty good, so it had a good payoff.
Help me. I just had a calling.
The Last of Us was another great example of how you can take a video game and turn it into a really compelling movie or a TV show. And with a live action adaptation of a video game, I think it all hinges on the lead actors. So what a relief that they had all-stars Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey heading up the show as Joel and Ellie. I generally knew what was gonna happen because I've played the games, but it didn't stop it from being really tense and exciting. I was really curious how they were gonna portray these pivotal moments like Tess's death and Joel's big boy accident. Season 2 can't come soon enough, man.
People are making apocalypse jokes like there's no tomorrow. Too soon?
No, it's topical.
What would happen if there was an entire court case that was completely fabricated, with a jury consisting of a bunch of oddball weirdos, plus James Marsden, who's playing a heightened Hollywood bozo version of himself, and then one person amongst the jury thinks that everything's completely real? Well, then you would get Jury Duty, which I think might have been one of my favorite shows last year. At first, you're simply following this kind of reserved guy, Ronald, who's just trying to figure out his place in all of this, and then it slowly transforms and starts showing you the goodness of humanity. And whilst the show is technically a mockumentary, the point of it was never to say, oh, look at this guy who's not in on the joke, let's all laugh at him, but how in the face of adversity, people can do good. It was absolutely hilarious and also surprisingly heartwarming. I enjoyed it so much that I wanted to show a friend just one episode, and we accidentally ended up watching the entire thing in a day. Yeah, it was very good.
I can't in and out, like that's penetrative premarital sex. Like, that's wrong.
I am a big enjoyer of Scott Pilgrim. It's a franchise that has had an incredible graphic novel series, a really great live action film, a really fun video game, and now a really charming and creative animated show. The fact that the entire cast from the movie reprised their roles to voice these characters shows you just how much they must have loved it. Although at first, I was a little weird about the anime. It was like the film, but a little more offbeat. It was a little slower. Some of the jokes weren't quite landing the same way. It was almost as if the film was more of an anime than the anime. But then by the end of episode 2, it took a complete turn and became something completely new and original while still honoring the original story. So very much enjoyed Scott Pilgrim Takes Off.
Did you just ask me if I was real?
Nope, I was talking to someone else. Bye.
The Bear came back for a second season, and I savored every single last morsel of it like a delicious gourmet banquet. I had the opportunity to binge it, but I didn't want to. I wanted to make it last as long as possible. Episode 6, Fishes, was an absolute standout episode for me. It was so stressful and anxiety-inducing, but what a contrast to the rest of the show. Here you've got Marcus making beautiful, delicious sweet treats in Copenhagen, and then you've got the contrast of the chaos of Kami's Christmas with the family. Can't wait for season 3.
Hey guys, can you shut the fuck up, please?
He is cousin, you know me.
He is fucking not nice. He is a fucking asshole.
Rich baby, has no
The irony of making people play Squid Game to compete for money is not lost on me. There was a lot of discourse online about how dystopian it is that they've made a show like this, and I get it, but I think you have to remember the thing that makes the original Squid Game so dystopian is that people would rather compete and die in these games than return to their regular lives. So anyway, I enjoyed the challenge for what it was. It was really fascinating to see how they managed to capture the essence of the original show without, you know, killing people. And I found it mostly entertaining. If that makes me one of those scumbag VIPs, then hand me a pig mask and a cigar and call me...
Oh, shit.
The Devil's Plan is a South Korean game show where 12 contestants play a series of games that challenges their critical thinking and intellect. I think the thing that makes this a bit more enjoyable than the Squid Game challenge show is that the contestants are all really quite likable. They're all really interesting people and they're not just bloodthirsty for money. So in the end, I kind of just found myself rooting for them all. Now, the one thing I do feel obliged to tell you is if you do watch this show, prepare yourself for very long explanations of the games. But I promise, when they start playing the games, it will make sense. It's worth it, believe me, it's worth it.
당신은 데블스 플랜에 초대되었습니다.
Pokemon Concierge was short, sweet, and so goddamn adorable. It made me want to leave behind everything in my life and go work on a tropical resort for Pokemon. Unfortunately, that does not exist, which should be illegal. Should be illegal for that to not exist. It's got a lovely little story, not a whole lot to it, but the animation, oh my god. The stop motion animation is so beautiful, it really made me want to just get my arts and crafts gear out and make a little felt cider.
I wonder which Pokemon we'll meet today.
Succession finally came to an end. I love a show that has you so invested that in between weeks you're just left in this frenzy waiting for the next episode. I got so wrapped up in the incredible performances for Kendall, Roman, Shiv, all of them. I was really rooting for them, forgetting how terrible these characters are. By the end, I was really rooting for Kendall to just take over the whole thing, and then I remembered he is not the right person to do that. For very obvious reasons. So the ending was kind of bittersweet, but it made total sense. I loved it so much. The entire show was so good. Would very much like to success again.
Fuck off.
I don't know if you know this about me, but I've played a couple video games in my time. Oh yeah, here are the ones I loved in 2023. Zelda Tears of the Kingdom, The Big Kahuna, The Silver Tuna, the long-awaited sequel to Breath of the Wild. What a game, what an adventure, what a world, what a shame that I never completed it. Yeah, I don't know what happened there. I was loving Tears of the Kingdom so much and then I went to Japan and just stopped playing the game. I just completely fell off and haven't picked it up since last summer. I don't understand why it went from my most anticipated game ever to just sitting there collecting dust. But what I did play was really incredible, and I promise I will finish it this year. Mark my words. Baldur's Gate 3 was a game that I wasn't actually expecting to play. I remember playing the other Baldur's Gates at uni with a friend, but I didn't understand why everybody was losing their minds about this new one until I played it. Holy moly, I could not drag myself away from this game. Naturally, I was playing as Wiggles the Clown, who was a charming bard who would lie, cheat, and steal his way through the trickiest of situations. I think Baldur's Gate 3 has made a lot of game devs sweat. It's really set a standard for what people come to expect from a video game. When you're thinking of next-gen games now, you can't really hide behind more polygons and higher resolution. You need some substance, and my gosh, Baldur's Gate 3 feels like a well of infinite substance. Lies of P. J. No, just Lies of P. I love games that punish you when you're bad at them, and I also love games that punish you when you're good at them. In Lies of P, you play as Geppetto's puppet and hack and slash your way through hordes of evil sentient puppets. The game was massively inspired by Bloodborne, sometimes maybe a little too much, but I don't really care because I really loved it. It was a lot of fun. It was really well designed and genuinely very creative. Dredge is a fishing simulator with Tetris-styled inventory management and a dark and mysterious story to boot. Sign me the heck up. Dredge was an incredible game that lasted just as long as it needed to for me, about 12 hours. And it was so much fun streaming it because I was doing the voices of all of the salty sailors, all of the scoundrels and sea dogs. The game introduces a few core goals and mechanics and then just focuses on that. It didn't try to do too many things, which sometimes can be a game's undoing. I would highly, highly recommend Dredge. Another delightful entry into the Pikmin franchise. Pikmin 4 is such an adorable game with so many quality of life improvements that make the game more playable and tracking your progress even better, which really helped me to 100% the game, something I rarely ever do. Pikmin 4 just struck the right balance of puzzling, exploration, and strategic combat. And I also really love the new Ghost Pikmin 2. I bet you're wondering what I'm gonna say about the next game. Rise of Kong featured extensive game-breaking bugs, appalling graphics, and was really a letdown for many of us Kong heads. We didn't think a game could get any worse than Gollum, and yet somehow it did. Unlike Mario Wonder, of course, which was an absolutely gorgeous experience from beginning to end. The side-scrolling Mario games have definitely taken a bit more of a samey kind of route, which I get, Nintendo more focusing on their 3D Mario adventures. So what a joy for Mario Wonder to just come out of nowhere. A new look to Mario and friends, exciting new mechanics with the Wonder Seeds, cool new power-ups, and just enough challenge for it to last about 12 hours overall. I loved it. I 100%ed it. Very, very satisfied. Spider-Man 2. I got very sick this year, and there was a week where I couldn't really do anything. So I played Spider-Man 2. From beginning to end, 100% complete. I actually 100%ed a lot of games this year. Exploring New York as Peter Parker and Miles Morales really makes you feel like you're playing a game. Very satisfied, would web sling again. Roguelike games are very dangerous for me. If something is infinitely replayable, I don't know where to stop. For example, I've clocked hundreds of hours on Slay the Spire. However, recently, Backpack Hero has totally taken over my life as a dungeon crawling inventory management roguelike that is very, very addictive. You collect items and you rearrange them to make them all fit in your backpack, and then you battle your way through hordes of enemies to get back to camp, and then, oh yeah, forgot to mention, there's also a base building aspect to the game as well now. I played this game quite a bit in beta, so I'm really excited now that the full game is out. I will say, however, at the time of recording this video, the Switch version is not very well optimized, so I would not recommend it. So I'd hold off on that for now, although on PC it runs really well, so that's how I've been enjoying it. And finally, Dungeons and Dragons? PJ, D&D came out in 1974. Are you some kind of a time traveler? No, I'm not. And if I was, I wouldn't tell you. But last year, I started a new campaign with a new group of friends, and I've been having such a ridiculous amount of fun with it. So I just had to mention it. It's my first ever time playing as a warlock, which is very exciting. I'm a mysterious buccaneer, Captain Lannery Storm, who has a dark past and a glass eye that he shoots magic out of. The role-playing is so much fun, man, and it gets genuinely very emotional. You grow to care very dearly about the other player characters, and you start to feel like they're real people, if that makes sense. With that said, our party does consist of a bunny, a chef, a monk, and a pigeon, but still, they're my friends. So I cannot wait to see where our campaign takes us next. So there we go, 30 pieces of media that have completely consumed my life over the past year. Did you see or play anything I mentioned here? Let me know. Do you have any recommendations that I didn't mention? Let me know. Do you like sweet potatoes? Let me know. Here's to an amazing new year. Let's kick 2024's ass. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.